Get the out of my face. Seriously?
You ain't the homie, this ain't for you. Ain't chasing paper, this ain't for you. You know what we came to do.
Hey,
You know what we came to do.
look, I'm in a league of my own. Y'all need to leave it alone. I'ma just eat everything. I'ma just leave you the bones. Call it an even exchange. There ain't no need to explain. Yeah, it should be overstood. Like when I hop on a plane and I fly over your hood. Y'all should be knocking on wood. Don't make me go against the grain. I ate my Wheaties, I'm good.
What's the deal? It's your boy Kelly Flicks, and I'm back with another episode of HBCU Flicks. Let's get into it. We're riding solo today. My boy Mal couldn't join us, but he'll for sure be with us on the late show on Wednesday, so don't worry about nothing. This episode, we got plenty of stuff to talk about. Including future schedules for the SWAC and the MEAC. We have 3 matchups this year, 3 very interesting matchups, and 2 that include Florida A&M. We're also going to talk about Fred McNair, headed to the University of Southern as a tight ends coach. Southern doesn't even use their tight ends. I don't know if they had over 10 catches this past year, but he's going to be the tight ends coach, so we'll get into that. Then we'll talk about North Carolina Central and the losses. North Carolina Central has taken a lot of losses in this offseason, including the leading passer, leading rusher, leading receiver, the entire defensive back core. There are serious questions to be asked about this North Carolina Central team, and today we're going to get into it. So let's start it off. Instead of going spring questions, I'd like to talk about Coach Fred McNair, actually. Not this guy, not the rebuild. There we go. We're going to talk about this. So when it comes to Coach Fred McNair making the move to Southern, right? Why did he move from Alcorn? Okay, so we all know what happened with Coach Fred McNair at Alcorn. He tried to leverage himself out of Alcorn and into Texas Southern as a head coach, and with a better salary than he had at Alcorn State during his tenure. But that did not work out. Dishman is now the head coach at Texas Southern. Coach Fred McNair has been out of a job for about 3 months now, give or take. Now he lands at Southern. There were questions. Jackson State, or at least Jackson State fans, wanted Coach Fred McNair on the staff. There were also questions about Florida A&M. Would he be the next head coach at Florida A&M? So to see him land with a position job in the same conference, in the same division that he left, where he was actually a head coach, is somewhat disappointing. He did not necessarily land on his feet. I mean, you got a day job, but is it like your old job? No. It's more like you lose your salary job and now you get a part-time job. The tight end coach at Southern is not that critical to success. I gotta be real. It's just not gonna be that critical to success. This Southern team has never relied on their tight ends to make big plays in big moments. That's not who they are. But the long-term plan, what I think is going on, I think the athletic director at Southern has decided that Coach McNair being inside the building is better than him outside of the building. Because at the moment, they are going with head coach Terrence Graves. Now, Terrence Graves wasn't the best head coaching hire of the offseason. I'm not even sure if I'll put him in my top 5. He was an interim coach for some time, and he was simply elevated during the offseason. Southern had other possibilities. Southern was really looking to get Chennis Berry to come in as the head coach. The same week that Coach Chennis Berry decided to announce his commitment to South Carolina State, he was supposed to be visiting Southern, but he never hopped on that trip. He never did. Southern was left with decisions to make. They made the decision to go with Terrence Graves as their head coach. I think that is a temporary move. I think it's a temporary move. I think that Southern, even going into this process, athletic director Banks came out and said a lot of the candidates that they have do not understand the salary restrictions and the budget restrictions that Southern University has. It's just a way of saying, we ain't got it, y'all. I think what Banks is doing is keeping McNair in the building so he can elevate him past Graves once he feels like Graves is inadequate. I don't think Graves is the best option. I think that they are actively looking to find a way out of it. And I do feel like Southern is somewhat in the same seat as Florida A&M. You lose your head coach. You have two choices. Either you can look from within or you can start a nationwide search. One or the other. At the end of the day, looking from within is usually cheaper. It's usually more cost efficient. And usually looking from within is the safe play. Both programs went with the safe play. Southern went with the safe play. But even that being said, I cannot see head coach Terrence Graves being there that long. I just don't see it. He seemed more as what they like to say in English soccer is a caretaker. You call a manager a caretaker of a program or a team that just isn't playing very well. And the interim coach is called the caretaker. Coach Terrence Graves is the caretaker. He's not the mom or the dad. He's the caretaker. Call him in for a couple of hours, then they leave at 8 p.m. That's what Terrence Graves is. I think Coach Fred McNair is an excellent head football coach. I think if Southern had any scruples about them, they would have hired Coach Fred McNair to be their next head coach. Maybe the timing was a little bit off, albeit they still ended up bringing the man into the building. So I think that the whole tight ends coach thing, that's a facade. That's a facade. I don't know if the tight ends even get coaching in practice. They might just go run all their drills with their receivers, like most tight ends. Or just go with the offensive line, like the blocking tight ends. I'm not sure if you need a coach to run drills for them the entire day. Doesn't feel right. It just doesn't feel right, man. It doesn't feel right. So Fred McNair's head to Southern. Fred McNair will stay in the swag. Going from Fred McNair, there's other stuff to talk about. I'll get into what I like and what I don't like also, because there were some things that I didn't like, and mainly about FAMU's coaching staff. Just didn't like it. But let's get into, let's go future schedules. Future schedules. MEAC and SWAC. The MEAC and SWAC Challenge. Celebration Bowl. These are matchups exclusively between the SWAC conference and the MEAC conference, the top Division I conferences in HBCU football. We have 3 matchups this year between the two. Norfolk State at FAMU in Atlanta will be our first matchup. That is the MEAC SWAC Challenge. Norfolk State has a somewhat middling team. This team is a wobbler. FAMU returns as the Celebration Bowl champions, but without their starting quarterback, without a couple of top guys on defense, and without head coach Willie Simmons. They now come in with Coach James Cozy. If you guys don't remember, I was a supporter of James Cozy as being the head coach at Florida A&M. I thought that made the most sense for their program at the time. He was the caretaker of the program, but he was also a guy that would stabilize this program that really could have went off the rails if he wasn't retained as the head coach. So Norfolk at FAMU. It's a little early to be doing a matchup diagnosis or even talk about players at this point because spring ball has not happened yet. But I'll say this. I think Norfolk State will be a very improved team coming into 2024. I think they're going to be a pretty good team. Last year they were middling. They lost to the Bowie State or they lost to Virginia State. They took some very bad losses. Couldn't get the offense going. Looked pretty bad. They're bringing in a new offensive coordinator. Offensive coordinator from Alcorn State. He's the guy. I think Norfolk could see very big improvements in the next 6 months. And it starts in the spring. This Norfolk team was very physical, had a good downhill running game, had played a very good defense last year, not for nothing. But at the end of the day, the offense is what held this team back. Bringing in a new offensive coordinator, bringing in more life on that offensive side is really what was needed for Coach Dawson Odoms at Norfolk State. I look forward to that being one of the best matchups of the MEAC and SWAC games. The second matchup we got is South Carolina State at Florida A&M. Now, this will be Coach Chennis Berry's first time traveling to Bragg Memorial Stadium, Florida A&M. He's going to be doing it with a bunch of new guys. 11 Benedict transfers, a couple of freshman guys, and some returners that probably didn't play last year. It will be a pretty good game. I think it will be a very physical game. And this could be a game that defines Coach Chennis Berry's first season as head coach. South Carolina State has a very difficult schedule, and on the top 6 games, there aren't very many HBCU matchups. So you can take the wins where you can get them. If Coach Chennis Berry comes out and shows his dominance against a Florida A&M team that just won a Celebration Bowl, I think people would look at Coach Chennis Berry a little bit more highly. A lot of people are trying to knock him down based on the fact that he lost in the Division II playoffs. Can we please leave that narrative alone? Please. If you don't know how the Division II playoffs work, don't bring it up. Don't bring it up. I don't want to hear that shit. I don't. Because guess what? Lenore Ryan's coach just left too. He's the head coach of the Division I program now. Is the knock on them that they lost in the second round or the semifinals of the D2 playoffs? Is that the knock? Wasn't a knock to anybody else. I think a lot of this stuff is fan fiction in an attempt to undercut the great sign that South Carolina State had. Coach Chennis Berry is a guy, and playing against Florida A&M can only boost his resume. It's going to be a great matchup. Then lastly, we got Alabama State at North Carolina Central in the Orange Blossom Classic. This game was previously played by Jackson State and Florida A&M for the past 3 years. It has since changed hands and is now in the hands of Alabama State and North Carolina Central. That is our MEAC and SWAC matchup. Previously, it's only been SWAC to SWAC. Now it's MEAC and SWAC. Cool matchup, right? I think that when you look at Alabama State and they playing against a team like North Carolina Central is in a straight rebuild. We'll get into that after this. North Carolina Central is in a rebuild. They're not going to tell you this, but that's what it is. This North Carolina Central team won't even be close to how good they were last year. You lose Davius Richard, leading passer. You lose your leading rusher, Mookie Collier. Adrian, what's the deal? You lose your leading receiver, Devin Smith. You lose all 4 of your defensive backs. You lose Manny Smith, Brandon Condriton, Jason Chambers, Khalil Baker. There's no way you could get me to believe that this North Carolina Central team will be as competitive as they were last year. No. But Alabama State, on the other hand, just brought in Andrew Body at quarterback. He's going to have a chance to have a coming out party against North Carolina Central. A Central team that's defense really wasn't that good. We saw Quentin Williams tear up a MEAC conference winning defense at North Carolina Central. They put up 50 points against the Central team. Quentin Williams, the same guy that we saw at the Legacy Bowl that couldn't hit the broadside of a barn, tore up this North Carolina Central defense. And he did it with run, pass, option. Simply put, RPO. That's what Andrew Body excels in. So if you don't think that Alabama State is going to come in with bad intentions against North Carolina Central at the Orange Blossom Classic, you are sadly mistaken. It's going to be a big game, but I think Alabama State sucks all of the air out of the arena. I think they might be that good this year, and the SWAC should definitely look out. So speaking on North Carolina Central and their rebuild, well, Flicks, why are they rebuilding? This is why they're rebuilding. Let's get into it. Your starting quarterback, starting running back, and starting receiver will not be here in the fall. It's a totally different team. It's a new look offense, new look defense. There's many different ways you can put this. So, impact seniors. You lose your kicker, Adrian Olivio, right? He was one of the best kickers in HBCU football last year, the best. They were able to rely on him in clutch times. I mean, ask any school in HBCU world how hard is it to replace a kicker. I mean, look at Jackson State last year. They struggled on special teams after losing Mata to Colorado. They struggled the entire season. Kicking, returning, everything struggled special teams-wise. I think that starts with a consistent kicker. Losing your senior kicker, your most consistent guy on the team, it's going to hurt. You also lose DB Manny Smith and DB Brandon Condrington. Talking about special teams, Brandon Condrington was the punt returner. He was your impact guy returning the football. You can always find impact guys returning the football, especially in punts. But when you got a guy like Brandon Codrington that's been doing this for so long, it's a little tough to replace like that. Sometimes it doesn't work. Then you got Manny Smith, another guy they're going to lose at defensive back. North Carolina Central is in a position right now where they are very, very vulnerable. They're very vulnerable. Look at the transfers out. You lose Khalil Baker, the Aeneas Williams Award winner, the best defensive back in HBC football, decides to leave North Carolina Central and transfers to Elon. Elon? I mean, I don't like the decision, but at the end of the day, this affects North Carolina Central much more. They need a guy like Khalil Baker out there. They lose another DB, Jason Chambers. He transfers to Appalachian State. He's out of here. Just like that, you lose 4 defensive backs. North Carolina Central wasn't that great on the front 7 last year. They haven't been the past 2 years. They're not that great up there. They're actually a little undersized on the defensive line and are a little slow at linebacker. Linebackers can't do anything in pass coverage. The defensive backs on this team is what has been keeping this team afloat for the past 2 years defensively. They make plays, whether it's tackles, interceptions, or big stops. These defensive backs have been the heart and soul of this North Carolina Central defense. Without them, you are nothing. Be real. You are nothing. And look, I'm from LA, so nothing is more like a joking term, but it's more to say that you are missing something. All right? You're missing something. And in this case, you're missing some very quality defensive backs. And we can say, oh, well, look at the recruiting class or look at that. But when you lose the Aeneas Williams Award-winning defensive back, it's going to hurt. There's no freshman, there's no transfer that can make up for that. That is gone. And the fact that they might not get it back or anything close to it is really what troubles me when I talk about North Carolina Central. And that's just defensively. When you look at the offense, you lose your top offensive lineman. You lose Corey Bullock to Maryland. You lose Torricelli Pimpkins to South Carolina. You're losing some beef up front to protect your new quarterback. So not only are you losing top offensive linemen, you're losing top offensive skill players. You lose Davius Richard, the best quarterback in HBCU football this past year. I'll say it. He was a little bit better than Miles Carley, so I'll say it. He was the best quarterback in HBCU football this past year. He's gone. I understand you got a pretty good backup. He's supposed to be the guy. Fine, but he's not going to be Davius Richard. And how long does it take for him to transition into being the guy? All right, it could be fast. It could be slow. This same quarterback, Walker, speaking on Walker, he threw for 5 touchdowns against Mississippi Valley. 5, about 300 yards. So if he can come in and be the quarterback that makes all the easy plays, sure, I think this will work. But if it's like any other quarterback transition, it's going to take time. Talk about running back. Mookie Collier was probably one of the hardest running backs in HBC football this past year. He's gone. He's gone. I felt as though North Carolina Central had a pretty good running back core, but when you look at Mookie Collier and what he did to Jackson State alone, what he did this past season, he is the most consistent part of this offense. He is. It's not North Carolina Central's passing game. It's not North Carolina Central's receivers. It's the rushing attack. And that's led by Mookie Collier. And it's backed up by Davius Richard. So losing Mookie Collier is going to be a big blow. And then you got Devin Smith, who is still in the transfer portal as we speak, guys. As we speak, he's in the transfer portal. But he was the leading receiver at North Carolina Central. So all of these losses I named are the reason why I feel as though North Carolina Central is going through a rebuild. They're not going to tell us this. The coaches aren't going to tell us this. The supporters aren't going to tell us this. The players aren't going to tell us this. The facts tell us this. This is not the same North Carolina Central team from last year. Not even close. We're going to have to look at them very differently. And quite honestly, I see them more as how I viewed Jackson State last year. Jackson State lost about 50 players to the transfer portal. They had an entirely new-looking team. People were hating on me for saying it, but it was the damn truth. Same way I come to you guys today and tell you this is the truth. North Carolina Central is in a rebuild, and it's going to take time for them to get back on top. I'm not sure if they'll even compete for a MEAC championship this year. Howard, Morgan State, South Carolina State seem like better options at the moment. Spring ball will give us a better indication of what this North Carolina Central team will be, but they've lost a lot. A lot. Let's keep it moving. So, from North Carolina Central's rebuild, let's get into, we'll do likes and not likes after this, but let's go top five. Top five. Here is my top five. Oh, wrong way. Here is my top five for this week. We're talking top five basketball teams. The SIC tournament was this past week. The CIAA tournament was this past week. And I want to say big shout outs to Fayetteville State women's basketball. You guys look really good. Shout out to Lincoln men's basketball. You guys also look good, but you guys won't be on this list. Don't worry about it, though. But you're not on this list. Here are my top five basketball teams in HBCU basketball this year. These teams were pretty good, actually extraordinary. They are all winners of their conference championship. All of them. These are the best teams. Let's talk about Jackson State and Tamika Reed. Jackson State has been great over the past 3 years. They are on a 58-game home winning streak right now. I'm not sure if they've lost a game in the SWAC, more than one game in the SWAC in the past 3 years. They are a juggernaut in HBCU basketball. Men's, women's aside. Nobody's touching this program. But a close second is Norfolk State. Norfolk State has found a way to make it to the NCAA tournament about 3 times in the past 5 years. This year may not be anything different. They come out 24-5. 24-5. That's damn good. That's a very good program. This program has stayed at the top of HBCU basketball for the better part of 5 years. New players, transfer portal, COVID, pandemic, it doesn't matter. Norfolk State just sublime to the pressure. Shout out to Clark Atlanta up next. Clark Atlanta just won the SIC tournament. They won it all. They won the regular season division title. Yeah, they beat y'all Morehouse. It's different. It's levels. And Morehouse, if you got something to say, you should have met them in the tournament championship like you could have instead of losing in the semis. But Clark Atlanta, nonetheless, has a very excellent program under a first-year head coach. I love to see them play. They have a great style of hoops. I'm not going to spend too much time on this. This is really Maux type stuff, but I will give my input. Then next, we got the women's basketball squad from Norfolk State, 24-5. Absolutely great season. They played a pretty interesting non-conference schedule that consisted of a lot of mid-major opponents, and they did work against mid-major opponents, which really shows me that this Norfolk State team is ready. They had a very tough outing last year. First round of NCAA playoffs last year, they went up against South Carolina. I mean, damn, man. Damn. It don't get no worse than that. But don't let that take away from the fact that this Norfolk State team is pretty good. And if they don't get a matchup like South Carolina in round 1, they could probably make a push for round 2 or 3. Be completely honest. And lastly, we got Langston University. Langston men's basketball nearly went undefeated this year. We did a recap when they lost to Sagu, and it's on the Lace Show. But Langston has really taken big steps forward this year. This year, this Langston team has shown perseverance, they've shown depth, and they've shown a willingness to make that jump to the next level. A lot of people are shooing them in for a Final Four appearance in the NAIA. Excuse me. I think they have a very good chance. I think this Langston team has all the weapons to make a big push in the tournament, and this is the year. You know, sometimes you got to push all your chips into the middle of the table and say, this is it. Langston has anteed up, and they are headed to the tournament, and we wish them the best. That's my top 5 of the week. Top 5 basketball teams. So, as we finish up the top 5, talked about Fred McNair. We talked future schedules. We do got some spring questions. Let's talk about some spring questions, and then I'll do some what I like and what I don't like, and we'll get out. We're going to make this a pretty short one, guys. So, spring questions. Questions at quarterback for Florida A&M. Will it be Daniel Richardson or will it be Austin Hooker? I have the race going down between those two guys. I don't think any other quarterback should be involved in this. Junior, you're simply just not it to me, bro. So I think it's between Hooker and Daniel Richardson. I've seen Daniel Richardson out there getting some reps. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that I'm going to assume he's been taking some first-team reps. He's probably one of the most tenured guys in that quarterback room. Albeit Junior has been there for a while, Junior hasn't played for a while. This brother, Daniel Richardson, has played at Western Michigan, Florida Atlantic. He's thrown for over 4,000 or 5,000 yards at this point. He's the vet. He's the vet. Probably older than everybody in that room, too. I think that this is Daniel Richardson's job to lose. When I listen to Coach James Coley's interviews and he speaks about quarterbacks, what he's really getting at with a lot of the quarterback talks is about who is going to be the leader for this team. They're looking for that guy. They need one. Some guys have moved around different positions. Nobody's really transferred, but there's a different dynamic within this team. And when you get a new head ball coach, usually leaders are already on the team and continue to lead, or new leaders emerge. I think since the transfer portal, we've seen new leaders emerge year after year for different programs within college football. And I think that Daniel Richardson is probably the newest leader to emerge on this Florida A&M team. When it comes to being a starting quarterback, you got to be vocal. You're going to break down the huddle. You're going to get on some people's nerves. You're going to do the right thing every time. And you're going to be very close with your coaches. Those are all the check boxes you have to check off if you're going to be a starting quarterback in NCAA football. All of them. That's from D1 to D3. That's how it works. I think that Dan Richardson may be putting in that work. And I'll pay attention closely to my sources on really what's going down over there. All right. Next, we got questions for Alcorn State. Big questions for Alcorn State. One of the biggest questions for Alcorn State is, how is Tyler Macon going to adjust to being the starting quarterback for all 13 games? How will he adjust? They're going to have a new offensive coordinator. As I spoke on it earlier, the offensive coordinator at Alcorn State has now moved to Norfolk State. So the offensive coordinator now at Alcorn State is from Lincoln, Missouri. He was a head coach at Lincoln, Missouri. I've got to do more research on him, but he does run a quick RPO style offense, up-tempo type of stuff. Speed is everything. I'll do a more in-depth breakdown on him, but as of today, I think that this offense works for Tyler Macon. Tyler Macon needs an offense that makes quick decisions. He's not very good at reading coverages, but he does have a strong arm. He is very fast. If he can make the defense have to make quick decisions by making a quick decision himself and getting rid of the football, I think that's when Tyler Macon is the most dangerous. When the offense is really thumping and moving in with tempo and they have a good rhythm offensively, I think that is when Tyler Macon is the most dangerous. So this offense, I'm leaving a little bit of hope out that it will still work, but I am definitely unsure of what is going to happen. It's going to be a very different Alcorn State team. Coach Cedric Thomas has been promoted to head coach. He's a younger guy, and he's running the program differently than how Coach Fred McNair once ran it, which is cool, but it comes with a little bit of trial and error, especially from a young guy. So I don't expect this to be super smooth, but I expect it to be a transition, good or bad. It's going to be a transition, and we'll see in the spring what that really looks like. And then next episode, We'll speak about Prairie View A&M, their new offensive coordinator, who was once the offensive coordinator at Campbell. Pretty good guy. I like that. We're also going to dig into Prairie View A&M's schedule, too, their schedule breakdown. They always choose these competitive schedules, but Prairie View A&M has a very hard time winning non-conference games. And we're going to break that all the way down. I might want to break down a whole game on why they can't beat out-of-conference opponents. A lot has to do with their defense. They can't stop a damn thing. Then Tennessee State's new offensive coordinator. So, yeah, we'll talk about that next episode, too. So, give me 1 second, guys. I'm going to bring up what I like and what I don't like. What I like and what I don't like. Bow. Do, 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 do. Do, 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 do. What I like and what I don't like. I got to make some little music for this, huh? All right. What I like, 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 what I like. So, I like Alcorn State. Alcorn State has been balling. Shout out to Buzzy Badass. He is doing it. Alcorn State looks to be the team to beat in the SWAC tournament this year. They're coming off a 7-game winning streak, and they're now number 2 seed in the SWAC tournament. Watch out for them. Watch out for them. Alcorn State consistently, year after year, have been competitive in basketball, but haven't made that push in the SWAC tournament. They simply can't get over that hump. Is this year the year for them? Is this year the year for them? As I say that, I would like to look at the tournament, the bracket. Men's basketball. Alcorn State, they are the 2 seed. They play against Alabama A&M in the first round of the SWAC tournament. It's going to be coming up this week. If you're watching this, it may have already happened. But in the second round, if they win, they have a chance to play Texas Southern or Jackson State. 2 very favorable matchups, although you don't want to see P.J. Henry at Texas Southern. But maybe they don't want to see the Bussy Boys either. The other side, though, has your more tough opponents, in my opinion. You got Grambling, and you got Alabama State, and you got Bethune-Cookman, and you got Southern. Tougher opponents, in my opinion. So, I like Alcorn. That's what I like. What I don't like. UAPB women's basketball, man. Ever since that scuffle, y'all been acting different. The whole team been acting different. You're taking ugly losses. I don't see Zay Green as much. The overall excitement we had about UAPB going into the season has now gone away. This is a different program. They've changed. That mid-season fight changed them. Let's check out their record now. I'll do it live. Okay, let's do it. So we got the record for UAPB women's basketball. Let's see it. Left. Okay, yeah. Now they are 11-7 in conference. They dropped to 16-15 overall. Lost 2 games ending the season. Arkansas Pine Bluff, man. Y'all got to have a call to Jesus moment right now. Coach Don Thornton, grab my hand, and let's call Jesus right now. And let's figure out what is going on. We've got to get this train back on the tracks. It's not even moving right now. And it ain't just squeaky wheels. There's all type of shit wrong with this damn train. The windows busted out. The damn steering wheel don't work. The caboose ain't attached. We leaving stuff everywhere. We put this at the wrong place. It's a mess. UAPB is going to have to pull things together if they even want to make any sort of noise in this SWAC tournament. Now, I don't mind too much. I wouldn't mind Jackson State winning this tournament and getting a higher seed in the NCAA tournament. I wouldn't mind it. Do I think that Jackson State will still make the tournament if they don't win the SWAC tournament? I think they will still make the NCAA tournament. Yes. I think absolutely Jackson State will still make the NCAA tournament if they don't win the SWAC championship. But if Jackson State does win the SWAC championship, I expect them to get a favorable seed in the NCAA tournament. I think that's just how it should work naturally. You shouldn't get 16 seed. Top 5 again. You shouldn't be a 16 seed for going 23-6. It's not a 16 seed. No way. All right. So That's all I've got for today, guys. Just did a stream from the crib, man. Took me a minute to get my Wi-Fi all set up, but we're all good to go. Expect to see more live streams for me, and expect for me to stay on schedule. I'll see you guys again on Wednesday.